Well, hello, I'm going to get started. And my name is Dr. Marianne Auten, and this is a webinar about activating hope. And the subtitle, The Antidote to Feeling Stuck and Helpless. I'm glad you're here and listening, and look to have you participate. I hope that you will have some paper and pencil handy, because there are a few things that we're going to do that you're going to need that paper and pencil. This is being recorded so that we can have access to it on our counseling website. So, all right, let's get started with the very first thinking about this idea of hope. How hopeful are you about your future? I want you to imagine your life in 5 to 10 years, whichever you choose. Pick a hard date. Think about how old you'll be if you're picking 10 years out, for example. So it'll be 2031, okay? All right. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Cynthia.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just getting started here. So you can start over.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What was that?
Hello. All right. I think I'll start. I just started talking, and I think I'll just start over again and go backwards. So this is a seminar about activating hope, the antidote to feeling stuck and helpless. If you can have it's being recorded because it's going to be available for people to see later. And if you can have something to write with, some blank paper and a pen or pencil. There's a few things we're going to do that that requires you to write a little bit, okay? All right. So I want you to start right off the bat and think about, off the top of your head, how hopeful are you about your future? And so I want you to imagine your life in 5 to 10 years. And here's the scenario. All your hard work has paid off and your life is amazing. So I want you to jot some notes about what is it like, and describing, just, nobody's going to read it or anything, but just, what's it like? Like, it's really awesome. It's 5 or 10 years from now, whichever you want to pick. Think about how old you'll be at that time. And what is this amazing life like? So some little bit of specifics, your home, your family life, where you're living, what does that look like? Your career, what's happening with your career, what's happening with the people in your life, or you're beyond that, even your friends and family, but your community. What kind of leisure, recreation, fun things are you involved in? It might be some things you already do right now, but to a much greater level, or it might be some brand new things that you haven't had the chance right now to try, but you will in that 5 to 10 year time frame. So just take a minute to take some few notes, to draw a picture kind of thing of what this amazing life looks like. Okay, I'm just going to give you, another minute or two. I want you to try to build some brainstorm here of this amazing life. So you've worked really hard and things have worked out really well. So it isn't about winning the lottery or that kind of unrealistic thing. It's you worked hard, but all these things really fell into place, and you're living the a fantastic life. You got some things. This is a kind of a quiz way of finding out your hope level. But can you dream big? Can you see things that are working out that you really want for yourself? Can you visualize them? Can you put words to them so that other people could see them just by your words? Okay, so this thing we're calling hope is a really interesting topic, at least I think it is. And the current research where people kind of thought, well, how do you measure hope? But it turns out you actually can. And first of all, with all of these studies that have been done in the last 10 or 20 years, in particular, we know that hope is actually crucial for our mental and physical health. It's like oxygen. We need it to live. And what we found from these studies is that high hope, which you'll be taking a little assessment in a little bit here, but high hope people have much less anxiety and depression or despair. Hope protects us from stress. We have better coping skills when we have high hope, and we bounce back from setbacks faster. We're better at problem solving, and we have lower levels of burnout. We have stronger relationships. And the thinking is because with hope, high hope people tend to be better communicators and tend to be more trusting of other people. They're less stressed out when they're parents because they're more able to teach their kids to set goals and solve problems because they're focused on hope. And hope actually is contagious. And when you're a high hope person, you tend to influence other people's hope levels. So lots of really positive traits that come from having high hope. And the good news is that we can actually raise our level of hope. We can teach it to people. Not that it's easy, but it can be improved and increased. So hope as PPE, we've heard that term a lot in the last year. I don't think I'd ever heard it before COVID happened. But in this case, we're looking at hope as personal protective emotion instead of the PPE, which is equipment. But here's like a definition of what we're talking about here is that hope is a yearning for something possible, but not certain, such as a better future. And this is the important part, a belief that you have some power to make it happen. So there are two crucial components. There's what we're calling agency, or in other words, that's the motivation you have to achieve your desired goal, and a strategy or pathway to do that. So it's different from optimism, which is the belief that the future will work out no matter what you do. Very different. And also wishful thinking or positive thinking. We hear a lot about positive thinking in the last few decades of a push for positive thinking, but hope is different because it has that two components. Yearning for something possible, but it's not certain, such as a better future. We don't know for sure what our future will be, but also that belief that you have some power to make it happen. So here's what hope requires in a nutshell. Are some goals. You need to have a future self that fires you up. That is a key aspect of hope, that you look to the future and you see a better future and you can get very excited about. what you're going to see in your future. Agency, that term I just use, the belief that you have the power to make that future a reality, that it is not just, total luck, whatever happens, happens, but you have that belief that you can have the wherewithal to create that future that you want. And then that third piece is the pathways. So knowing that there are many ways to reach your goal, and that none of those pathways will be free from obstacles, because that's that wishful thinking when we think that it's just going to be easy, because it isn't. And that there is more than one way, because the problem with thinking there's only one way to get what I want is that if that doesn't work out, I'm liable to just quit and give up. But knowing that there are many ways to reach my goals, but every single one of them has obstacles, and any worthy goal is not going to be easy, to get to. All right. So then there's good hope versus bad hope. So it's along these same lines. Good hope is when we can see an achievable, better future and take action in pursuit of it. So we know we got to take action. It's not just going to happen. And then the not so good hope is deluding ourselves with thoughts of stuff that's highly unlikely to happen. Like, I hope I win the lottery. That is not so good hope, because it isn't going to happen. Odds are not in your favor at all. So you'll see a couple graphics on here that just remind me of some really interesting studies. I don't know how they think of these things, but this is a study that was done a while ago, but it was only 15 minutes, and they had people put in two different groups randomly. And the first group was told to think of an important goal and imagine how they might achieve it. Okay, it was just 15 minutes, but that's what they were told to do. The second group was told to read a home organization book. Wow, okay, but only for 15 minutes. Okay, now here's the crazy part. They then told people to immerse their non-dominant hand in a bucket of ice water for as long as possible. Okay, these were two random groups. They just randomly put people in one group or the other, and put them in the ice water for up to 5 minutes. There wasn't people that lasted 5 minutes, but interestingly enough, that those who had been told to spend the 15 minutes ahead of time focusing on an important goal and imagining how they might get there, those people lasted with their hand in the ice bucket for an average of 150 seconds, whereas the people that were told to read the home organization book for the 15 minutes only lasted about 90 seconds. So almost twice as long. When they asked them the report of how painful it was to keep their hand in the ice bucket, there was no difference between who was in which group, but there was a significant difference in how long they persevered. I think that's fascinating. And so looking at it from just different angles, it causes us, even just triggering hope about our future in 15 minutes causes us to persevere longer. And that shows up in other areas as well, not just putting your hand in an ice bucket. The other study that if you can see in there in that photo, those are rats, white mice, whatever, swimming in water buckets. And this is another study from a different thing, but when they gave the mice hope that they could get out by just periodically taking them out of the water and then putting them right back in, as opposed to the group that never got out of the water, they would swim 200 times longer when they had some hope that they were going to get out of the bucket. Like, fascinating. So hope matters, and we can learn it. There's even places in the brain where where the level of hope will show up, will light up. And interesting that it's in the part of the brain that's kind of in between the limbic system, which is our emotions, and the prefrontal cortex, which guides our actions. It's in there with both. All right. So there's been more than 100 hope studies, and that's showing that how we think about the future is a key determinant of success in school and in work and in life. And just in an overarching nutshell, those who had higher hope for the future, based on a scale that there's several of them around, validated scales, but had 12% gain in academic performance, which would be more than a full grade, a little more than a full grade higher if we're going to compare it to A, B, C, D. A 14% bump in workplace outcomes of getting promoted, staying longer in a position, and a 10% happiness boost for people that had more hope than those who had low hope. So interesting that there's, all this outcome. I made some of the ideas at the very beginning, particularly because we're in a culture right now with a very high level of anxiety and depression. And these hope studies showing that there's a major difference in people's with high hope having much less bouts of anxiety and depression, and able to get through it better than people with low hope, which makes sense. But the exciting part is that we can teach people to be more hopeful. So there's some of these behaviors and outcomes that are related to hope, with all other variables held steady. But people with higher hope, they show up more often, which turns into better grades and happier employers, more promotions. They are much more productive, which also turns into positive outcomes. They have a higher overall well-being in many factors. They have better health in many factors, and they actually live longer. So let's get our hope boosted. Taking a subgroup there of students to greater academic success, stronger friendships, demonstrate more creativity and better problem solving. There's that lower levels of depression and anxiety. I just read a report yesterday that 50% of college students in this last year have reported significant depression or anxiety or both. The number was already high before COVID, was about 30%, and now it's 50% just in the last year. Interesting that having a high hope score actually can predict a student's future academic achievement more than when we ask them about their self-esteem, their feelings of self-worth, or their positive attitude towards life. So hope is a much greater predictor of academic success, which I thought was really interesting. So there's this idea of how do you do hope? So we have this idea of fantasizing. We want that big, shiny, awesome. We picture ourselves with our own house on the beach, or retiring early, or owning a fast, expensive car. These are the fantasizing side of hopeful thinking, versus the dwelling side, which is imagining all the things that can go wrong. I could lose my job, my partner could leave me, my house could burn down. I mean, all the things potentially that could go wrong. So we have people that kind of can fall predominantly into one or the other. But where we want to be is in the hoping category, which is fired up about an exciting future. So can be related to that fantasizing sides, but and aware of the inherent challenges to making that future a reality. So that is the dwelling side. So it's a combination is what then becomes hope. That I got those future goals in mind, that I can see myself with a bright future and I can visualize it of the things that I want. And then, but I also recognize that it won't be easy and there will be challenges to and obstacles to making that future a reality. So when you think to yourself, being honest, which one of those three do you predominantly fall under? Are you prone to fantasizing how everything's going to be like this amazing, have a yacht, a castle, I don't know, these kinds of things, or do you tend to focus, kind of like Eeyore, Winnie the Pooh's friend, that was always looking at the, oh no, what if this happens? Or do you have a combination of that hoping? That's where hope is. You fired up about a future most days. We all go up and down. But you're aware that there's going to be challenges. So whatever it is, we know that that we can improve and grow that situation. But we want to try to be in this hoping category. So here's 4 core beliefs that hopeful people have. And it's like the prerequisite to being high hope. So a belief that the future will be better than the present. I was interested to note that over 80% of Americans do tend to be more optimistic. So that was a positive. But just I have to believe that my future will be better than the present. And then right with it, I have to believe that I have the power to make it so. We don't know what will happen, but I have the power to make my life better, despite what happens. So it's kind of this mantra of I can get there from here, so we're looking towards the there that we want to go to from here, and but that belief that I can get there and it will be better. The other 2 core beliefs of hopeful people are that there are many paths to my goals. There's not just one way, but none of them is free from obstacles. So this is kind of the core we get going on, and this is what in my profession of counseling, we want to help people with these. We want to grow these beliefs, because when we do that, we're going to grow the hope factor. So here's another little fun kind of activity, is where does your hope come from? And there is no right answer to this. So let go of trying to think of what it would be. So I want you to raise both hands when I tell you to, okay, up in the air. Hi, okay. And so you want to raise both of them, and then we're going to count to 3, and you're going to point to where your particular, your overall hope comes from. Does it come from your head because you are a real thinker and you're, think out the future, plan for it, see it there, how am I going to get there, kind of thing? Or does it come more from your heart, the feelings that move you, those emotions of, the things you want in life, a fantastic love relationship, for example, but it comes more from your heart and your emotions? Or the third choice is to come more from what we're calling the holy, is what you find sacred, that bigger picture. So you got two hands, okay? So you can point to two different things on this list of three, or you can point both your hands when I count to three to the one area that that fits you, if there's only one, okay? But you can't point to all three because you only have two hands. And these are all intertwined. There's not one right answer, because your feelings influence your action, your thinking, complex cognitive operations are influenced by your emotions, and the holy is the leap of faith, because we don't really know what's going to happen in the future. So, all right, you ready? So you're going to raise both hands, okay? I can see you, Bob, so raise your hands. Okay. And then now when I count to three, you're going to point to, so if you're pointing to the head for thinking, you're pointing to your heart for feeling, or you're pointing to straight up above for the holy, what you find sacred, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, awesome. And so, what happens is, so some of you have turned on your camera, which is great, because in the beginning, nobody had their camera on. But we tend to be drawn to people who do the same thing as us. And it's funny that in the studies that have done this, the one who wins out the most, has the most people pointing to it, is the heart. I am a thinker on the Myers-Briggs, if you've ever taken that personality profile. So I voted, I know I do a lot of thinking and rationalizing and all that. And then I also pointed up for the holy, because faith is really important factor of where my hope comes from. But I'm doing both, and I hope I have some feelings in there too. But it's kind of interesting of where you think about your hope comes from, because whichever you pointed to, you can expand your level of hope. And that's kind of the secret place to start, is where you pointed. All right, so the good news is that hope is malleable. It means it can change, okay? It can grow. It's not fixed. All right. Your personality isn't just, hopeful or not hopeful. And there you go. No, it's malleable. We can grow it. We can boost it. And there are 4 main resources for that. And you have to kind of think about these things. But, and by the way, if anybody wants this PowerPoint, I could send it to you afterwards. You just have to email me. And I think I said at the beginning, but some of you weren't on yet, but I'm Dr. Marianne Auten. I'm one of the full-time counselors here at PVCC. So, and it's going to be on the counseling website too. So anyway, these 4 main resources for building hope are your sense of attachment. Do you have at least one person, hopefully a few more than that, that you trust and can connect with? Because that definitely makes a difference in hope. And if you don't have that, you're typically, if you don't have anybody that you trust or are deeply connected with, then chances are you're operating out of low hope. Another resource is that feeling of empowerment that makes us feel like we're capable and we can get over obstacles. And along with that, we get empowered when we have people who will validate our strengths. So that could be somebody in your family. It could be your significant other, your best friend. It could be your boss. Awesome if your boss empowers you. But that feeling that I can do it. And then this resource of survival that's operates out of belief that you aren't trapped in a bad situation. You may certainly be in a bad situation. We all go there at times, but feeling like I won't be here forever. Low hope is certainly when we feel like we'll never get out of it. We'll never change. And along with that, an ability to hold on to positive thoughts and feelings, even in the midst of dealing with something negative, that, this too shall pass. I can handle it. I can get through this. And then the fourth resource is spirituality. If you have a belief in something larger than yourself, whatever that faith comes from, tends to really create much more hope in people. And people who practice a faith actually have been shown to it's a strategy for life fulfillment, satisfaction, and happiness that definitely is higher than those who don't have that connection, that spiritual connection. So, all right. So here's our little test. So you need a piece of paper and a pencil, and you just want to write real quick 1 through 10 down the paper. Okay, everybody okay with that? 1 through 10. This is where you're going to get a score that, helpful. I picked the easiest hope scale that I had, because there are several others that are really, really good, but in this setting as a webinar, they took longer and they were harder to explain. But the big one that you can find online easily and it's free is called the Adult Hope Trait Scale. It's 12 questions. It's just 2 more than this, but it's set up different. And then ASU actually has a center for the study of hope. And the person who runs that center, professor, I think he's a professor of psychology, he's got a scale that's pretty interesting and much more in depth. It kind of relates to those resources that I was just mentioning in the last slide. But anyway, this one's kind of quick. So if you've got written down 1 through 10, then for each of these statements, I'll just read them and you're going to give it a 1 through 5, depending on how much you strongly agree. That's you. So the first one, my future will be better than the present. If you strongly agree, you circle 5 or you put 5. If you strongly disagree, then you put 1, and then you've got your choice in between that. So right in the middle, not so much one way or the other, is a 3. So that's the scale, 1 through 5. And 5 is strongly agree. Okay. So number 1, my future will be better than the present. How much do you agree or disagree with that statement for you? Number 2, I have the power to make my future better. Through 5. I'm excited. Number 3 is I'm excited about at least one thing in my future. Hopefully it's more than one thing. Okay. Number 4, I see many paths to my goals. Number 5, the paths to my important goals are free of obstacles. Number 6, my present life circumstances are the only determinants of my future. Number 7, my past accomplishments are the only determinants of my future. Number 8, I make others feel excited about the future. Number 9, I spread hope through modeling or support of others. And number 10, I spread hope through the way I live my life. Okay, so you should have a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for each of those questions. And then here's how we score this simple assessment, okay? So just for the first 5 questions, you want to total that up. So the lowest score you could have is 5 if you gave all 5 of those first 5 statements a 1, or the highest score you could have is 25 if on those first 5 questions you gave all of them a 5. So you're going to total those up to see, and this is your hope score for those first 5 questions. And kind of this little brief assessment is that if you scored 15 or less on those total of those first 5 questions, it's going to take some hard work and practice to raise that score, but of course it can be done. If your score was a 16 to 20, your hope is definitely an asset to you every day, but there are many strategies that can help you increase it. And if you got a 21 or above, you are a high hope person, and thinking about your future is an asset. So then questions 6 and 7, just those 2 questions have a range of 2 if you gave them both a 1, and 10 would be the high if you gave them both a 5, whatever's in between. So you add those together. And this is your readiness to hope score. So this is kind of a reverse score, because the higher the score, the more you believe your future is dominated by what's happened to you in the past and what's the circumstances you find yourself in right now. And so that becomes less room for hope the higher the score. The lower the score, you're thinking that your future is the way to go, and it can be bright. So, and then questions 8, 9, and 10, you add those together, and that's the hope contagion score, or how apt you are to influence other people with hope. It is contagious. So the highest you can have with questions 8 through 10 is a 15. And if you scored above 12, you're a model for others, boosting the hope of those around you. And if you had a low score, it says spend more time with high hope people, because then they can rub off on you. And remember all those great benefits of having high hope. So another way, we're moving into the how you boost hope. And that first one, just taking an assessment, kind of gives you a starting point, so you know which area to focus on. But another way to bolster hope is actually reading history or memoirs, or even reminding yourself of your own times when you succeeded, or people around you have succeeded, especially when maybe the odds were against them, reminding of that. But certainly in history, it's what happens is it's a reminder that bad times do end. And so focusing on ways that history has moved forward positively. I got a picture of Nelson Mandela here. I mean, 27 years in prison because he was fighting, apartheid system. But who would have thought, especially 27 years, but he finally gets out and he becomes the president of South Africa, and made, an impact. He made an impact while he was in prison. These are just examples, but like the fall of the Berlin Wall, and reading about that, because that didn't look like that was ever going to happen, with difference between East and West Berlin. I was there a few years ago, and the remnants of the wall are there, and it's really fascinating. And then I just put I added the memoirs because I get so inspired by people's stories. And this one right here, it's a book called The Choice, subtitle Embrace the Possible by Dr. Edith Eva Eggers, but that is a life-changing book. And she was a Hungarian Jew who, as a teenager, was put in Auschwitz. And the stats are only 1 out of 28 people survived Auschwitz. And her parents were both murdered right when they got there. She didn't know that till she was freed later, but her story, that book is incredible. And she is 92 right now, and she didn't write that book until she was 90. And she became, she's a psychotherapist who's still in practice in San Diego. And that is one inspiring story all the way through. So it gives me a lot of hope. But, anybody think of any examples of movies or books or videos, or, parts of history that you find would bolster hope because you see how it turned out when it was not looking good?
A lot of the TED Talks have those type of stories.
Yeah. Amazing. I just saw a study. I was looking for it right before I started and I didn't find it, but it was on 300 people that are famous, done, big things from all different walks. And then they studied them with their story, and it was like 75% of them came out of really difficult circumstances, either poverty or, messed up parents big time, or just various things. But it's almost like they wouldn't have achieved the great things they did without having these major struggles to have gone through. And I think, and then hope is what made it so they didn't give up and did even great things. So yeah, I think that is true with the TED Talks. I collect these short little videos of people's stories from all walks because I particularly like when it's like 3 to 5 minute video, and they just inspire me to just think. And I'm just saying that Edith Eggers' book, like I was giving it to everybody I knew, and saying you just have to read this. It's so amazing and inspiring and a different aspect. I did just also read The Water Dancer, which is a novel, but it's based on, historical times. And I got inspired with that book too, of just a new picture of the horror of slavery. It was prior to the Civil War. And, but just the resiliency and thinking it through. And Harriet Tubman is in that book, and her story is know a little bit about her beyond the book, but she never learned to read, and she's responsible for freeing over 1,000 slaves. And even when she was 80, she started like the first home for elderly people that needed help being taken care of. And at 80, but never learned to read her entire life. And what an amazing, amazing impact. And that builds my hope when I see these people that do these amazing things. I'm like, well, I can certainly do something too. All right, so another big deal for raising hope is what we're calling future casting, which is the fundamental skill for growing hope or making hope happen. So it's like kind of what we did at the very beginning briefly, but, you know, writing down and then even talking about, what are you excited about? What future of awesome are you creating? Can you see it? You know, and it's not just one piece of life, like not just your career, but, you know, the love relationship you want, in the future, the family you might want, you know, those hobbies, those service things that you might want to do, you know, causes that you want to make a difference in, you know. So, you know, writing them down and visualizing this future is powerful impact. And then taking like one of those top goals and visualizing it coming to fruition. So if you have a major career in mind, you know, spending a little bit of time visualizing what it'll look like in 10 years and where you'll be in at the end of your career. What will you be known for? What will you have accomplished? And then get, you know, feeling it as well as seeing it. But how will that change your life from now? And what benefits will be from that whole aspect of this bright, positive future? So part of that is starting with just, you know, list what's important to you. Your various roles you're in now and where you want to go with them. And then kind of be able to prioritize to say, which ones are the most important to me right now? And I put in here, you know, be sure they're your goals and not someone else's. So that's a common thing of younger college students to often, when you ask them, sometimes they say, well, that's really what my parents want me to do, not so much what I want to do. And the motivation won't last if it's not something that's really your goal. But prioritizing and then looking, where am I now? You know, like I have some, you know, health and fitness goals. Where do I stand right now? Where do I want to be in 5 years or so? What kind of job do you have now? How is that? How satisfied? Even if you know it's just a, you know, while you're going to school job, but how satisfied are you, and where are you going with that? Do you have a plan? You know, if you don't have a major in mind that you're excited about yet, then come see me in the counseling office. I'll help you figure that out. You know, your relationships, your friends, you know, how satisfied are you with the friend circle you have, kind of thing. And then we want to take those and like take what you put as the most important right now, and make it a more specific goal that's written in the positive, not what you'd like to stop doing or get rid of. Write it in what you want. Much more motivating. And then, you know, achievable with some deadlines of when you know, if the career is part of it and you're getting your degree, write it down. What's that degree about? And then when do you plan to finish by? And get that first professional, you know, job. So that's the place to start, where it raises the hope. Now, if you look at your top fabulous goal, you probably have several, of course, but if you pick one that's, you know, you can feel the motivation around it. Yes, I can. This is a kind of future I'm after. Yes, I feel energy. I believe I can make this happen. I know it'll be hard work. But then you start with, okay, so what do I have to do? If the goal is to be a veterinarian, for example, so you start to break that down of, yes, I can see it, I'll be done. with the bachelor's at this point, and I'll go to vet school. And then here's about the time I'll start my practice. So we work backwards. What do I need to do? What do I need to do this year towards finishing the bachelor's, getting the kind of grades that are necessary to get into vet school? You know, and then break that down even further. This semester, I got 2 weeks left of biology. I gotta pull it out, you know. And so it starts to then, you know, you want to back it up to these even smallest steps, because those are doable. And then when I finish a small step, it boosts, success breeds success. And then I see, yeah, this is possible. I can do it. The first test in that class, you know, chemistry, I got a 68. That was not what I was looking for. But the second test, I got a 75. And the third test, I got an 85. And so those small steps help you boost the hope. Yes, I can do it. And then this where and when plans is really kind of interesting, because here's an interesting study. They just took a group of students, and the assignment was to write about what they did on Christmas Eve. And it was due 2 days after they came back from the winter break, okay? And they randomly just put them in 2 groups. And one group was told to write down when they were going to write the essay over this 2-week, 3-week, 4-week break, whatever it was. When are they going to write the essay, and where? So kitchen table, desk in my room, whatever is the where. But the when is, you know, I'm going to do it the Saturday I get home, or the day after New Year's, or whatever. But the where and when plans, that's it. And the other group, randomly, they didn't ask them anything. They didn't ask anything about where and when. So then it was due 2 days after break was over. These are probably high school students, I'm guessing. But this is amazing. 75% of the group that wrote down the where and when they were going to do the essay turned it in on time, versus only 33% of the group that wasn't asked and didn't think about where and when. Total random. You know, more than double, well over double, turned it in on time just by writing the where and when, which took like all of 5 minutes probably. So definitely goal strategies. Hurry up here. So the key skill of high hope people, these are the other 2 pieces of it, that they have beliefs that there are many paths to their goals, and that none of those paths is free from obstacles. So we get in trouble when we think there's only one way to get something we want, because if that doesn't work out, we're typically going to quit. And when we think it's going to be easy and then it isn't, we're also likely to quit. And so right up front, knowing that there are obstacles, because then I can anticipate, I know what my weaknesses are, I know what obstacles I'm likely to face, and I will already be brainstorming and getting help when I need it of how to get over those likely obstacles. And if one path doesn't work, I got another route. Okay. It's that if then too. So if this obstacle that I know is probably my trouble, then I've already decided ahead of time what I will do to get around it. Okay, so, and to watch your words. Our language is so powerful. And when we get in despair, which we all do, because things don't always work out the way we want them to, and tough things do happen to all of us, But we tend to speak in absolutes when that happens. It's a habit of, oh, I'll never get a break, we're doomed in this business. Things will always be like this. Oh, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't get it all done. And these are hope killers. So it takes practice. Our habits of mind, our habits of thought are just like the habit of, smoking. So we can change those habits, but we've got to work at it. So just getting practice in hopeful language of I can, we will, it's possible, is the practice that boosts hope. And to recognize when hope killers are coming at you in your self-talk. And then being able to laugh at your mistakes, because there's just going to be obstacles. Instead of you make a mistake, something fails, that is not the time to give up. It is like, yeah, well, there we go. At least I got done with that mistakes thing. This is a really interesting poll that Gallup did. It was a huge study in all kinds of companies. And they just asked the people if their leader at work, their immediate boss, made them feel enthusiastic about the future. That's all they were asking, was yes or no. Then they looked at how engaged people were in their jobs. And they could ask people to rate their engagement with their job, but they were also asking the boss to say which of your employees are particularly engaged in the job and which aren't. 69% of those who said their boss made them enthusiastic about the future were also engaged in the work. And they were described as more innovative, more productive, and more likely to stay for the long haul. Having a boss or a leader that did not make them feel enthusiastic about the future, only 1% were committed and energized at work. Wow, that's incredible. 1% to 69%. So if you are a leader, and we all are, you might be leading, you lead yourself for sure. If you have kids, you lead them. You may be the supervisor. You may just have colleagues. You may not have the title, but coworkers that look up to you, or friends that look up to you. So we're all leaders, so it's imperative that you inspire hope, because it is contagious and it does make this huge difference in all things. And that leads me to this idea that emotions are contagious and everyone is searching for hope right now. And so it's important that we model it for other people, even sometimes when we don't feel it per se, knowing that it is contagious and hope gets hope. So if I start using that language and create my bright future that I'm after, it influences the other people around me. And so they're just thinking in particular, what makes you feel hopeful? And right out of time. So my last slide is just a reminder that if you want some help activating your hope, we can help you at PVCC Counseling. We're free for students, and staff sometimes use us too. But we can help you take a closer look at your goals. If you feel like you don't have any, we can help you create some. We can help you with the goals you do have, make them more specific, and with the steps that would get there. Build your way power and your energy base. So looking at your motivation and what will help you get to where you want to go. And we can definitely also help you with your self-talk, among other things. And so there's the number if you want to call for an appointment. We would be happy to meet with you. Any comments? That's the end of my Activating Hope presentation. Like I said, I will share the PowerPoint if if somebody wants it, they can email me or contact the counseling office.
It was a wonderful presentation, Marianne. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
It was great.
Thank you. It's an interesting topic.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah.
You know, I've been focused on purpose for quite a while now.
Yeah.
And before that, it was growth mindset that I wrote my dissertation on, and very involved with that topic. And it evolved into helping students find purpose and meaning. And there's such a link right here too with find purpose and meaning and hope. And I found a lot of the current research really fascinating, and also the
Imagine.
statistics a little bit scary as to how many people are feeling so hopeless.
I can't even imagine, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to feel hopeless. You know, it's
Yeah.
not that they don't have any reason not to feel hopeless. It's tough. You know, life's hard. First got tech. So, by
But
the way,
it is like it's there's a lot of reasons to feel hope too.
yeah,
And it is like saying in the beginning, it's kind of like oxygen. You've got to have hope. And and sometimes we need other people to help us when we're feeling in that hopeless state. That's the key. So anyway,
well,
any other comments that anybody wants to make before we go?
thank you. Have a nice evening, Marianne, and everyone.
All right, you too. All right,
I'll
well,
send you an email.
okay,
All right.
all right.
What was your
Well,
best favorite
thanks.
book? What was your favorite book on hope? In this research.
Well, Making Hope Happen
Might
by
have
Shane
mentioned that.
Lopez was where I got a lot of my data, but he wrote it in 2012. So that was a while ago. But, you know, I didn't even know until I was putting this together that ASU has a Center for Hope Studies.
That's amazing.
And
I gotta look at that.
I plan to search that out.
Me too.
And there's also the guy who's leading it has written two books on hope. They're recent. So I want to check
So-
that out too.
It's a powerful topic. Really is.
Yeah.
But that's what when you're doing counseling or psychotherapy or whatever, that's what people want to get out of it, is a sense of hope that I'm going to get unstuck from wherever I'm at and things are going to get better. It's a beautiful
That's
thing.
right. But
It's a beautiful
and
thing.
the great thing is that it can happen, you know, and
Yeah, it can happen. But
you don't have to stay stuck. And you don't, I may be a little bold here, but I don't think you have to deal with debilitating anxiety or depression your whole life either.
exactly.
And a lot of these techniques and strategies have proven to be more effective even than medication.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the person.
But they require action though. It's not gonna, you know, just like I hope I win the lottery. I hope my life gets better. You know, you just gotta have action to
Gotta move
to
your
do that.
feet.
So
Well, thank you.
what?
Thank you, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, good. All right, well, thanks everybody. If you want to connect, you can do that. You can find me through the counseling center and be happy to connect with you. All right. Stop my share. And all right.
Thank you.